Welcome to Tidbit Tuesdays, ICBC road riding tips for motorcyclists. So today's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about choosing the correct lane position when it is windy out or you're driving in an area where there's a lot of crosswinds. So as you can see, this is a nice little windy road, so this is a pretty sweet place to come for a nice ride on a nice summer evening. But one thing, you can see the trees are moving up there, is it's actually, A, this is a pretty windy secondary highway usually, and B, definitely the wind is a little bit more pronounced than it usually is out this way. So, on that note, which lane position should you choose if the road conditions are quite windy? I'm riding a Honda CBR250. As the bike is quite light and I'm quite light, definitely I'm feeling the wind pushing me and my bike around quite a bit. So it's now settled down a little bit, less windy through this passage here. So I'm in P1 right now, which is the regular dominant lane position. If I was experiencing a lot of wind right now, these winds that were coming were all coming from the right-hand side, then if I stayed more in a lane position that was closer to the right side of the highway, as the wind is pushing me, then I'm not going to get pushed into the oncoming lane. If the crosswind was primarily coming from the left, then what you would want to do is ride in a position that's closer to the left. So for example, if the wind is coming this way, you're going to get pushed over to the right. And so if I was in P3 and the wind was going that way, that would be pushing me into the gravel ditch, you can see, which wouldn't be really obviously great. So when we're talking about doing your lane position changes, remember the proper procedure to be doing that, even though you're still within your own lane, is you should still be doing a mirror check, you should do a shoulder check before you move into your other lane position. So if you have winds that are kind of buffeting from all over the place and there isn't one really predominant direction they're coming from, the lane position that you would want to choose in that particular case would actually be P2. Now normally riders are not encouraged to ride in P2 because it's kind of known as like the grease trap line, right? That's where if a vehicle is leaking oil or grease, it's going to go into P2. But if you're talking about riding on the highway in general, most of the time that kind of grease line that you're going to see is going to be mostly in slower areas, like around the intersections and the stopped areas where that drip has more time to accumulate. The other little hint, it's not ICBC related, but just a little hint about riding in windy conditions, is when I was first learning to ride, I kind of had a bit of a death grip on the handlebars when I was getting thrown around in the wind, because believe me, this bike feels like it's getting picked up and moved over into a different lane altogether at sometimes when it's really, really windy. So a trick that everybody kept saying is when it's really windy, you know, the bike pretty much will self-correct a lot of the time, and it actually does. So I found the tighter I was trying to hold the handlebars, the worse I found that it was to keep myself in control in the wind. So a nice light but firm grip on the handlebars, almost like you're holding like baby chicks, people say. And if the wind buffets you, then the bike wants to always go straight. So this bike is excellent in terms of it wanting to self-correct when it's getting blown around a lot in the wind. So once I figured that out, thanks to everybody who I read up about that on, then riding was just so much more enjoyable in windy conditions. So if you're really in a windy position and you're getting buffeted around quite a bit, as you can see, if you were in P2 and the wind was pushing you in different directions this way, you might get pushed into like a P3, or then you might get pushed into P1. At least you're getting pushed around in your own space, in your own lane. Whereas if you were getting pushed around and you were riding in P3, that could put you over off the side into gravel, or if you were in P1 and getting pushed around, that could actually buffet you into the oncoming traffic. So that's it for today's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and of course also check me out and connect with me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.